All right, welcome back. We got our weekly stock market update for January 5th through January 9th, the first full trading week of 2026. And it was a pretty interesting week this week. We had a lot of geopolitical news, and the market had a little bit of reaction to it, but not a whole lot. So with the whole Venezuela news, we had some oil stocks pushing. We'll take a look at some of those charts. Some of these oil stocks look like they're breaking out. But oil itself is still staying in this downtrend, not a whole lot of action there. So it'll take some time to see if these stocks have some real momentum, but they do seem to be diverging from oil itself, which is good news for those stocks because they've been kind of chopping around, not doing a whole lot for a while. And then we did have Amazon with a nice push last week. Some of that is due to optimism of the potential tariff news, getting the Supreme Court issuing their verdict on tariffs. And it looks like there's a little bit more optimism that the tariffs that were initially in place last year will get overruled by the Supreme Court. And again, when we look at some of the heat maps, you'll see that the retail names had a very strong week this week on some of that optimism. So we'll see if there's some follow through there. Next week, we do have CPI coming in, so that'll be interesting. That's always a market moving event. And we do have PPI as well. And we're getting close to some of the earnings starting to get rolled out. So let's take a look at the heat maps. We did hit an all-time high in the S&P 500 this week. And the S&P was up about 1%, and the NASDAQ was also up about 1%. Commodities looking good. Gold and silver, nice bounce back week. Bitcoin slightly up this week. And when we look at the heat map here, you can see some of the big technology names, money rotating out of Apple, Nvidia, Broadcom, AMD, Meta. So those big tech names, a little bit of softness this week besides Google and Amazon. When we look down here at the retail trade, bright green, Amazon up 7%, Costco 7%, Home Depot 7%, Lowe's 7%. So a lot of optimism on the retail names this week, and energy as well with a nice strong week. Crypto pretty flat, I believe, this week. So Bitcoin flat on the week here. The ETFs had some inflows, but overall crypto market, not a whole lot going on there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at oil. So we've talked about oil for a while here. We drew this line a long time ago. It's just chopping and slowly making its way down to this $50 level. And even with the Venezuela news, the price of oil didn't really have a move at all. So we're still hanging out at this 59 per barrel level. And we'll see where we go from here. But some of these names, Chevron, nice move this week. It was up like 14% on Monday. We gapped up on a lot of these large U.S. oil names. Marathon Petroleum, Exxon, breaking out here almost to all-time highs. And there are some interesting names if there is going to be a legitimate breakout and some follow-through. There are some small names like Devon Energy, which could be a nice trade, and same with Occidental Petroleum. Oil stocks really aren't my expertise, but it is something I would be looking at here to see if we do get a follow through on this move, because some of these names like Occidental Petroleum, they are quality businesses with quality revenue, as you can see on their earnings at the bottom. They're just steady companies. They're not huge growing industries, but things could change if there is some more geopolitical news coming out the wire. So we'll have to wait and see there. Just something to keep an eye on, but some of these charts do look very constructive here. And if we do get a pop in oil price, that'll be an additional boost to these names here. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of our regular names. We'll take a look at silver because it is having a nice bounce back here. So we will very choppy. It goes up 6%, down 6%, up 6%, down 6%, but holding up here at this $80 level. Gold had a nice recovery here as well after we had the big drop on Monday a few weeks ago. And let's take a look at Bitcoin. Not doing a whole lot here. The more I look at Bitcoin and zoom out, to me, I think this could be a sleeper for a breakout. Now, when I say a breakout, I'm looking at this $94,000 level. We need to get above this and hold, because we've been rejected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times at this $94,000 level. So this is kind of what I am hoping for. If we get another flush down and then we get a move up above 94, break down, retest 94, and then make our next move up. But again, when I just zoom way out here, to me, this still looks constructive here, where we've had this pullback, we have a move up, we had our pullback here, and maybe we can get our push up out from 94,000. So to be determined there. Some other names I want to talk about. Tesla looks interesting here. We've kind of been chopping in this upward trend here. This red line, we keep pulling back towards it, bouncing up, and then we have pulled back to it again. So could be an interesting short-term trade on Tesla if we can stay above this 420 level. If not, wouldn't be surprised if we come down into the 380s. But I still think this $500 level is going to be major resistance for Tesla. Google just continuing to crush. Another all-time high this week. Like I said, the S&P 500 did hit an all-time high this week, just barely, but we peaked above. Chart looking good here for the overall markets. Amazon with a huge week this week, from 225 up to 250, but we are in a very strong resistance. We gapped up a few months ago on earnings, and we immediately sold off. I do see a lot of optimism around Amazon. All of a sudden this year, people are looking around and saying, you know what, this one may be the Google of 2026. Google was kind of left for dead in 2025, and then back half of the year it just went on a tear. So would not surprise me if we see Amazon get up to the $300 level mid-year or by the end of the year, and that's about a 20% move from where we're at. So we'll have to wait and see. Amazon's market cap is only $2.6 trillion, and they are making $180 billion in revenue each quarter. So I think people are going to remember this is a great retail name, obviously, but AWS is getting its margin control back, and they have a large piece in Anthropic, which is really doing well with Claude. And then also the whole robotics game here for Amazon. They're going to be one of the larger companies that roll out robots across their businesses. So some cost savings there, and also just a boost of enthusiasm for that this is an innovative company. They don't just deliver deodorant to your door. They are kind of all over the place when it comes to the cutting edge of technology. So this is one of my top names to watch this year. Very strong start to the year. Wouldn't surprise if we get up to that $300 level this year. Nvidia, interesting. We had a nice pop here from 170, got up to 190. Look to be pulling back here. Some of the semiconductor names are getting real soft. We're having a lot of rotation out of the GPUs into memory. So some names like Micron, SanDisk, those companies are on a complete blistering move to the upside due to the shortage of memory chips. It's not slowing down at all. It's been going on for a few months now, and it's beginning to continue to increase. But I think this company here, Nvidia, as we've talked about many times, is poised to get over 220 at some point once people remember this company's not going anywhere. But you are seeing a rotation out of some of the GPU names, Intel, Nvidia, AMD, and that is going into the memory names. But overall, semis still look very strong. Taiwan Semi, ASML, the whole ecosystem looks strong, but you're seeing some rotation under the surface there. Another name that had a strong week was Uber, a nice bounce back. Uber under 80 to me just seems absurdly cheap, and I think the market kind of stepped in, but we are still in this downtrend here. So not out of the woods yet. We may have just been rejected again on this on a lower high. So we will wait and see the resolution for Uber, but very optimistic about this name as well. Netflix continues to bleed out. Again, I think there will be value in this name eventually, but the overhang of who's going to buy Paramount, who's going to buy Warner Bros. And HBO? Is it going to be Paramount or Netflix? Is the government going to get involved? Is it going to turn into a political circus? There's just going to be a lot of headlines here, and I think that is where you're going to see this name continue to bleed. But if they do close the acquisition and acquire Warner Bros., I think this stock quickly gets back over $100. But who knows when that'll be? Can that be in 3 months or a year? Nobody knows. Meta not doing anything, just consolidating here in the mid 600s. And a name like AMD, to me this looks like we want to go down and fill the gap, 185, 170. So if we do get down there, that to me would be an interesting place to see if we can hold these levels here. But AMD is a phenomenal company. If you want exposure to the semiconductor world, this is only a $300 billion company. So much smaller than the $4.5 trillion Nvidia market cap, and it is a growing industry. We don't look at this name quite often, Taiwan Semi, but this is just a phenomenal business, and it did hit all-time highs this past week. And some of the other big names, Microsoft, very much a dud here. We've rejected twice on an earnings pop in the 550s, and very interesting name here because this is obviously a blue chip name, but it's not showing any excitement in the AI world, and you just don't hear anybody talking about it. So to me, I feel that there could be an air pocket down, and if we do get that, I think that is a buying dip opportunity on a blue chip company like Microsoft. So 400s, I think that's a no-brainer buy. Apple, after a tear towards the end of the year last year, we are in a 10% pullback on Apple. So it's quietly down 11%. So this is another name. If it keeps dropping, I think you can make a case for the valuation being rich on their price to earnings, but it's Apple. It's a blue chip. Anytime a blue chip gets down 10 to 15%, I feel like it's worth looking at. I have no exposure here at Apple, but would not be surprised if we quickly get back up to the 280s, or if we do have a news report to push us back down. But again, similar to Microsoft, I think these names should be on your list because these people are still going to be buying iPhones and Macs. These companies aren't going anywhere. Any other names to talk about? I don't think so, but we'll have an interesting volatile week this week with CPI and the volume continuing to come back into the market. There's some interesting setups here, and overall, economy as a whole seems to be holding up with the jobs numbers. We're going to have some Fed rate cut decisions coming up in the next few months, and we'll have earnings. So I'm hoping we get a pickup in volatility, but so far still a pretty quiet volatility week for the market. Let's take a look at the VIX. Yep, so we're still just consolidating down here at our lows. So not a shocker if we get a quick spike up above 20, but any spike in the VIX, I expect it to look like these here, where we'll get a little spike and then we'll come back down. Get a little spike, come back down. I don't see in our near future a huge VIX pump and where we stay up at those high levels. So that is all I got for this week. I'll have another weekly stock market update for you, most likely on Friday, since we have some material news coming out with CPI this week. All right, everybody, have a great weekend and peace out.